Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Thank you all for coming. It's very loud, right? Is the volume very loud?
No, there's an echo.
7 better? Okay, so we're excited that you could be here tonight. Tonight's event happened in Evolution. We've been doing this Young Entrepreneur Program now for 3 years. Baruch Hashem, many different types of programs. And also we have a business counselor. And Baruch Hashem, I'm proud to say that our program is a program for the entire community, and we do things for men and for women. And we have our counselor, in terms of the business counseling, a third of the people that come in look for different business ideas they're looking to start are women, many young women, all types of women from this community that have business ambitions. And from time to time, we like to do special events that are meaningful to specific segments of the community. And so once a year at least, we try to do some sort of special event for women in business. So this particular event was born out from a meeting we had. Last year, there was a few women that I called together, and we had a meeting to discuss what was the most important topic that they felt would resonate and have meaning for the women of the community. And in the discussion, the key thing they brought up was they said, get ahead. In other words, you know, in the business world, whether you have your own business or whether you work for someone in a business, whatever it is, you know, there's sometimes a certain bravado, a certain, pushiness that you have to have in order to get further. And, you know, it's not necessarily something that comes naturally to women. And so they felt that should be something that should be discussed. Women that have succeeded, women that have, climbed the ladders of the corporate world, built businesses that have reached, acclaim. If they would share their story and their insight, that would be a great inspiration for the women of the community. So that was the meeting we had, and it was a great idea, and it was just sitting in my mind, and who am I going to reach out to? How, I wasn't quite sure how I was going to turn that into an event. And then Baruch Hashem in the summer, I had the opportunity to meet Mrs. Ganevish and spend some time talking, and she said, if you ever did an event in Crown Heights, I'd be happy to come speak. And once she said that, I said, oh, I have somebody for this event, and that got my mind whirling. And from there, I started speaking to Mrs. Zabelsky, our MC tonight, who's been somebody who's been very helpful to CHYU over the years. And I was saying, who else could we reach out to? And she said, that AJ Madison, which is one of the most well-known electronics and appliance stores here in the tri-state area and online, there's somebody there in AJ Madison who's, quite a businesswoman, and that's how we reached out to Mrs. Axelrod, who will be coming to speak tonight. And then Mrs. Zabelsky said, in Crown Heights, there's a woman that has to come and speak. It's going to be Mrs. Halberstam, who single-handedly helped to put up the most beautiful, magnificent building that we have in this community, the beautiful JCM, which is something which was quite amazing, and she's done a tremendous amount of things, and she would have amazing things to share, and Baruch Hashem, she agreed to come. And then we have the privilege of having Mrs. Warnaker, who is somebody who she's in the corporate world. She works for Con Edison, one of the largest electric supply companies, and she's a lawyer, and so she has a special corporate experience, and so we have a very rounded and diverse panel. And Baruch Hashem, we're honored that they could be here tonight. This discussion is being filmed, and we received tremendous interest through through the marketing that we received, there's a lot of women that reached out to us and said, you know, we can't make it, we'd like to see this, so we're recording the event, and so this event is not just for here tonight, it's going to be something that the message will get out to the women from the Chabad community, and so I'm honored that you could be here tonight, and for those that are going to be watching, we're honored that you're watching, and this is a special evening, and so I'm going to call up our panelist, Mrs. Abelsky, to lead the discussion. Okay. You want to call everybody?
Yes, thank you. So the success of tonight is to be with our panelists. So this is Davish, this is Goldstein, this is Wonder, this is Axel. You can kindly take your seat up here. So I was asked to MC this event, and I wanted to start it with the story of the guy, the man that sits on the road on a trunk, on a suitcase that's on a trunk that's tightly closed with an inverted cap, and he's collecting coins. He's collecting coins. He's collecting coins, and he does so for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, collecting really the coins of what he needs. He feels he needs to get ahead. And one fine day, actually, they're all going to be listening. Thank you. Thank you. So 30 years later, after 30 years, one of the passers-by throwing some coins, and he says to the guy, "What is it in that trunk that you're sitting on?" And he says, oh, nothing. I've been sitting on this for 30 years. And the guy looks at him and says, "Why don't you look what's inside?" And he gets up and he says, "You know what, I'll listen to him." And he starts to pry this trunk open. And as he opens it up, after a lot of effort, he sees there's gold and silver and lots of coins. And the message of this, of that he was sitting on his own coins, he was sitting on his own wealth, that's the message that I want to start with tonight. Getting ahead. You all come tonight to learn how to get ahead. The first place is that this is the mission of Crown Heights Young Entrepreneurs, for everybody in the audience to be able to look inside themselves to see what is it that I'm going to need to get myself ahead. We have a gift tonight of being on a panel and hearing from those that have taken themselves and allowed themselves to move ahead, and that's where we're going to hear the great insights as we came here tonight to learn. So there's always ground rules that I set up when I teach or when I talk. The first thing is you came here tonight, we've done our commitment to you, that when you leave, you know something more than when you came, that you got specific tools with you in your toolbox that you're going to be able to apply. The rule that we put out is to come with an open mind. Allow yourself to learn. Literally open your mind. We've prepared very constructive and solution-focused feedback. You'll hear it in all of the things that you're hearing. I already did put out there, papers and pens. You'll have insight when you write it down. It's another sense that you're using, and that's how you're learning the learning. So do that. At the end, after the panel is shared, we are going to open it up to question and answers. I'll be manning it, but you'll have just ask for the respect of having one conversation at a time. There is a mobile curfew for the hour and a half that you're going to be sitting here. Just shut off your phones. Give the full attention to the front and not have any distractions, so we can keep to it. And then there's one thing that I have put a lot of pressure on with the panelists. There's going to be tight timekeeping here so that we're getting the most out of it. Just wanted to give you the heads up. There will be a timer, and we will all be mindful of that. There's really silence when they're sharing, and we're going to keep to our time. So with the message of what I'm sharing, of coming here with an open mind, tonight I wrote something, it was on COL. We have here our own professionals that have made it in moving themselves and getting themselves ahead. You never know what each of you will hear one thing, and you'll have insight, and you'll forever be able to date it that, you know, I was sitting on February 8, 2016 in Lavav Teshiva at the CHYE event, and I heard something that was a defining moment for me where I shifted, where I look at something, where I shifted, I do something, and it opened up opportunity for me. There's a great book that's out, it's called Soul Stories, the author is Gary Zukav, and he writes this, how you'll meet someone in your life, you're meant to meet, to learn something from them in order to move yourself forward. So with that, that's the mindset of what we're hopeful to do for all of you tonight. There's another book that I read just recently that's been our bestseller for a while, which I attribute everyone here to being in this state of mind. The name of the book is Mindset by Karen Dweck, and she speaks about two mindsets. Either you have a fixed mindset and you say, oh, they were just lucky. Oh, they were just smart. Oh, they just made it. I'm never, it's just not going to happen to me. Or they're smart, I'm not. They're successful, I'm not. That's called the fixed mindset. That's one. The other part is the growth mindset. You all came here at night. You had a full day, you came here at night because you're opening yourself up to being in this growth mindset of we're always recreating ourselves. We're open to being in this place of growth, to learning one thing from them that's really going to help us to grow and to attain success. And then the last book that I read recently that I want to reference is how to get what you want and want what you have. It's written by John Gray, and he writes there how we can't have this thought that, oh, if you have money, then you'll be successful. Success is about your pursuit to move towards something of personal success. And when you're able to define what that is, and when you're going in that direction of getting what you want, it's because what you define, that's really the best way to open up the panelists that are sitting here. So I'm going to introduce each of you individually with a specific question. So I'm going to start with you. We're going from youngest to oldest here. So when I did a LinkedIn before we actually spoke on the phone, DeVerby is working at AJ Madison for just shy of 10 years. And when I had a conversation with her, she does share that she really got the job there as a customer service. It was just there for customer service. She came in and she did assess that the company did need help in many areas, all around the area of infrastructure. And I think it was ambivalent. Is it a job for me? Is it not a job for me? But it was agreed upon that she would come in as a helper. She was young and single, and definitely I heard the resounding work ethic of committed, persistent, driven, and really having a lot of common sense. Just liked the mission of what they were doing, and like the specific gap. We call it the gap analysis, which she diagnosed, like the fact that there was this infrastructure buildup of what they needed. It was something that drove her. She's there, as I shared, close to 10 years, and when she started, they were a $35 million company, now closing the year at $200 million. So let me ask you, DeVerby, share with us about this. Share with us to the audience of what we can know about you. What was it really in you that saw that calling, took you where you've taken yourself in the company, where it is today.
Okay, so I think when I first came in, I saw that there wasn't a lot of infrastructure, and I thought, there's some quick wins that I can get. There's a bunch of low-hanging fruit. Let me attack those first, and let's see how I can take it from there and grow. I knew that they had literally almost no infrastructure, and an example for me was just to see how much it would make a difference was I saw when somebody dialed 0 into their queue, they went into a customer service queue and they could have waited for 30, 40 minutes. And to me, that didn't make any sense. If you press 0 on the phone, you want to talk to somebody and you want to talk to somebody right now. So I thought about that and I said, okay, I'm sure there's a lot of other small things like this that can make the difference. And, I started there. I wasn't brought in a management role. I was brought in more like, we need help. Come help us. We'll figure it out together. And that's really what I did.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, So, Mrs. Warnaker, in conversation with you, I heard, actually very pleasant, right away I heard an accent, so I got to hear, we recognize the South African voice, and to hear your story about how you grew up in South Africa, a traditional Jew, and then came out here to New York to pursue your education, to go to New York School of Law, to become a lawyer, and what you found in the whole experience of going to law school here in New York, both in terms of your professional self and the part of you that makes you who you are, who you have become, going from a traditional Jew to becoming what you did become, and how you saw the calling of, in South Africa, it was about you prefer to be a traditional Jew than to, that's what helped to identify ourselves. To coming to New York and realizing the need to really actively pursue what it is, like what's underneath, what it meant to be a Jew. And you worked your way up and were successful, very successful in law school from the top, percentages, had your article printed in the Law Journal, which was a tremendous accomplishment, to consistently saying, and so what, and consistently looking for more, to pursuing and connecting with Chukana and learning that, and really connecting with an intrinsic, deep-seated message of Chabad, that everything that we do in Lubavitch, everything that about Hasidus is imbued with Getlichkeit. So whether it is that you were advancing in your career to finding, your personal pursuit through Yiddishkeit, that they were always embedded. If you could share with us about how you took yourself from law school and becoming to where you are today, practicing law at Con Edison, we'd love to hear that from you.
Good evening, Kodesh Tov. I think as I was saying, the one thing that I found when I came to New York was every second person's last name seemed to sound Jewish, and it seemed like there were lots of Jews in New York, and yet people didn't know what the first thing what it meant to be Jewish. And that started my exploration as to how I wanted my family to be what I wanted to be as a Jew. And what my ambition has been such that I was Shana Shabbos in law school, and I got to that point, and I always say that, Shabbos kept me staying in law school, and thank God. And the journey was such that when I worked at a law firm, crazy work hours, this was my work week, then there was Shabbos, and then was back to work. And I think what really took me to the nth degree was Chassidus, the waking of, I sort of liken it to putting on glasses where you suddenly see the world in a different color. Chassidus was something that helped me realize that every facet of my life is imbued with godliness and holiness, and that it's not that this is work and this is something where you leave from. And I think that's helped me in terms of my relationship with people in the corporate world, that they do see me as a religious woman, with a shaitel and dressed a certain way. And we can talk more about it in the conversations that I have with people, giving out shmur matzah to my boss, Erev Pesach, for inviting people for meals. I think being in the corporate world, especially now where diversity and inclusion, I don't know if you've all heard those buzzwords, but D&I is a big initiative that most corporations are really pushing for. And this is really the time for us as, for a woman not to be shy about being frum and not to be shy about being who we are, because corporations are looking to be inclusive and realizing that different voices are very important in making up the puzzle of decisions, and it's valuable. It's not a detraction.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. And we'll continue to share more about we'll be answering other questions. Okay, so we now turn to Dvari Halberstam. And when I say the name, so we all, thank you, Rabbi Wordy, for saying, I said we can't have a panel without having Dvari Halberstam here. As I was living my first year of marriage, my year of Shana Rishona in 1994, DeBerry's life turned over on that same year, March 1st, in '94. And what we all witnessed, I'm not so old, but anyone living in Crown Heights, what we witnessed is a woman who just as much as I'm, Liz, you're starting my own new life, DeBerry's life took a huge, huge shift. To lose a son is the most painful experience ever. And when we have a painful experience, we all go into a different state of mind of what we're going to do. What we saw in our own community is a woman that looks just like me and you and you. There was no stopping DeBerry. She listened to the news, she heard the news, she mourned the news, and she didn't stop as a story that this was claimed as a random act of violence that happened on the Brooklyn Bridge. Inside, DeBerry knew the truth. Inside, DeBerry knew the truth, and everybody listened to this because to me this is this is so powerful. There was a truth that DeBerry was not going to go to sleep at night until that truth was known. She was going to stand behind the truth. We now witness, we then got to witness and hear where that path took her. Where that path took her, we know that we go on the Brooklyn Bridge, and we know that Brook Bridge has the Ari Halberstam name. We know that she got to rewrite that this was not a random act of violence. This was an act of terrorism. DeBerry rewrote that law. DeBerry, till today, and whatever I'm going to share, it's going to be funny because it's like from the hand, I'll only give like a part of the fingers. There's a lot more that I don't know. There's a lot more that I'm not DeBerry, could share. But DeBerry does a tremendous amount, all in the pursuit of truth. DeBerry became a global figure. DeBerry trains FBI agents, DeBerry law enforcement agents, government officials, and on and on. DeBerry goes out to the White House. I don't know how many times she was here already this year. DeBerry is a high-profile woman. I spent many years in the nonprofit space, and when I would meet with elected officials, they would look at me and like, "Why are you talking to us? You have access to the number 2." DeBerry didn't tell you that. This is who DeBerry became. DeBerry is our own woman who has not stopped for anything, only until the truth be known, until her impact be known, and not only for herself, and not only for the gift that we got, that beautiful museum that we have in our own neighborhood, but the impact is felt all over the world. There's just like several articles that I was reading that we, just reading it of how she took a life-altering experience and made it her mission. So my question to you is, DeBerry, to introduce yourself of what can you tell us about, just a little bit of the introduction before we even get into the questions of, this is the woman behind it. What can you share with all of us?
Well, you said so much. So I will actually have to start at the beginning, because the one thing that you said was it was very life-changing for me. March 1st definitely was a defining moment of my life. And today it is a reference in everything that I do. It is the guiding light that I have. My son, Ari, goes with me wherever I go. I have become his voice, and whether people like it or they don't like it, but he is, Ari was 6 feet tall. He was one of our boys. He was murdered for the Rebbe. I'm in Crown Heights now. I usually don't speak to audiences of my own people. So for me, this is very heartwarming to be here tonight, to be able to say all the things that I really want to say to everybody, and I don't usually get that chance. You have to put a different aura on, but to sit among my own brothers and sisters and talking about my child, which is our child, and saying to you that there isn't a day in my life or the day Ari was shot until this very day that I stand before you, that I ever have a moment of peace, nor will I ever have peace in my life. But what I have done with Ari's murder is as follows. From the moment Ari was shot, and I mean that literally, from the moment. I don't know what it was. It was a strength that rose up within me, that nothing in this world would stop me. And I really took a lot of my strength and my sources, as you sort of, I read it in the piece that you wrote, and I had a very similar experiences, but the experience I remember when I was in high school, and one of my classmates is here in the room with us, but just so you know it's true. So I remember when we were in high school, we used to live, and you remember this because you were on Stony Avenue, weren't you? Okay, so they used to go around while we were in high school collecting money for us to open bank accounts. And they don't do that anymore because everything has become corporate world. But those days they were trying to teach students and young people how to save money. And we used to go around, we used to give maybe a nickel. Now, how much money did our parents have? Everybody had large families, and we would have, and every week they collect till the end of the year, and we all had this like $2, $5, whatever we had in the bank account. And I look at my life, and I look at a lot of where I get the strength and where I got my ability to kind of face all of this was I look at how I was raised. I was raised in a home by parents, especially my father, who would talk only about MS, and that truth was everything. And the world that I work in, and the world that I live in, and the world that I have faced, both the criminal justice system, and then through political things, through raising funds through the museum, through people I work with on a daily basis, you have to really search for the truth. But I only saw the truth. So to me, I was very focused. I always was focused. I still am very focused. I am all over the place, but I'm focused on where I'm going. I know exactly what I want to do, where I want to go, and what I want to accomplish. And I have also embraced another thing, which is extremely important. I have not only, I've always had it within me, but I really love my people. I love being a Jew. I love being a woman. I love being who we are. I feel a great uprise for it. And I really feel that I have to stand up and make a difference. And I have been in many places where my voice has counted, where I've changed many, many things based on that. And there are, again, people in the room that know that that is in fact true. You don't have to like me. You don't have to accept my opinion. But you'd be surprised what one person could do in changing the world.
Thank you. Thank you. So then I had a conversation with Mrs. Ganevish, and then I watched her clip. There's a great, almost 3-minute clip that is definitely worthwhile to watch. And to me, it's the theme of how to introduce Mrs. Ganevish, where she talks about diamonds and beauty. And what I heard in your message was beauty. So I asked her to give me a synopsis of yourself, and the first thing she spoke about of how she sees her success. And I've just completed this strength-based coaching training, and it made me smile from ear to ear. Where the whole idea is when you build people from their talents. So she says, my first success is that my whole family is in my business, and I can tap into each of their talents in the business and how to strengthen them. That each of them can shine in the business. And that gives her tremendous knowledge. The second thing is she shares about, she goes, I'm a simple woman. And my belief is that money is here to empower others as well. And their big focus, the Ganevish, full company, big focus on tzedakah and how many, her pride is in how many Chabad houses they've helped. And she consistently sees that when you give, you get. The more she helps others, the more it gets funneled back there. And then she completed on with a note, and my mother's in the audience, and I felt like I was talking to my mother. And this is the power of everybody. This panel is open to women, and the koyach of what women have. She spoke to how her focus is consistently on the good. Her and her husband are both Holocaust survivors. To survive the Holocaust, there's a lot of stuff that they witnessed, they went through them, and once those things come into the head, it can get us down. It can get us down. We can witness somebody else going through a hardship and it gets them down. It was just, she took that, Mrs. Ganevish would look at it, the depression in the eye, if we can use that big D word, sadness in the eye, those moments, and there was just no space for it. She took that let's give the kayak to making it, getting us into our happier state of mind, because through happiness we'll be able to move ahead and be able to grow. So, consistently finding good. So Mrs. Gnavish, if you could share this brief intro about yourself, about the woman behind this intro that I just did.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. This is my first time really in such a venue, and I hope that I'll be able to give you a little bit insight. First of all, I am not a smart woman. I'm very, very average. So the fact that I have a big business and built a big business has truly nothing to do with smartness. I'll tell you a little bit how I did start my business, and then you'll understand why I have so much faith and belief that Davidson runs every single thing that we do. I think more than any place in the world, business, you can openly see miracles. About 35 years ago, my husband was in the printing business, and we had to close for 2 weeks because his union came in and there were certain laws that he had to follow. And so we decided for the first time in our life that we're going to take a holiday. My daughter was in Camping, California. She was a counselor, and I had 2 little kids at the time, and we decided to go visit her for 2 weeks. We arrived Friday morning to California, and I went to get some stuff for Shabbos. I'm standing in line in the kosher store, and someone taps me on the back, and it was just an old friend that I had been. His sister and I were best friends in Montreal. She moved to Israel. He lived in California, but we were so happy to see each other. So he absolutely insisted that we go to his house for Shabbos. And so we did, and it was a lovely Shabbos. He had a wife and 6 children. They got rid of Lubavitch. It was really lovely. At the end of the meal, he started to tell us how his business is failing and he's not doing well. His business is going to go bankrupt, and we felt really bad for him. My husband is, by the way, very brilliant. As unsmart as I am, he is brilliant. He's truly an entrepreneur. And so he said to him, you know what, after Shabbos, let's go down to your office, let's see if there's something we can help you with. And that's what we did. And right there and then we decided that we were going to help these people out. His business was bankrupt. We were going to open up an account for him on our name. We'll help him, we'll set him up, we'll give him $25,000 to buy merchandise. And I said to him, I don't want anything in return, I just want you to be successful. How much? Oh, okay. And so that's what we did. We helped him out, we opened up an account, and 3-4 months later, unfortunately, he wasn't able to continue with the business, and so I was stuck with a lot of merchandise. He owed us a lot of money, couldn't pay us back, so my husband said, okay, send the merchandise to Montreal, and so I was in business. And that's how I started my business. Hashgacha Pratis, I was standing in line. So I just want to tell you that most well-to-do businesses will tell you that they did not start their big business from anything except meeting a person at a certain time, having lunch, just by chance. And that's what Davidson does. He takes you by the hand and he leads you to where you need to be.
Thank you. Thank you, Sonia. That's a beautiful, poignant message for everyone. And now we're going to be on this. Now it's going to start one question after another. It's a very timed event, and that's the way we're going to do it. So what we have here is a timer, and you literally get a minute with 50 seconds. So I have it like this. We know that mindset plays an integral role in getting ahead. It's all about the messages we tell our brain. What is your mantra that keeps you going and gets you ahead? Mrs. Warner.
So I'm going to quote the saying from the river, and the title is Unslavery. one word, unsaved. It's not business, it's not money, not career, nor human relationships that tear our souls from us and us from our God. There's much beauty in any of those as there is in any tree from Gan Eden, and as much divinity as in any holy temple. God, after all, is found wherever you care to look for him. It's the way we lock ourselves in each of these, begging them to take us as their slave, the way we sacrifice upon their altars our dignity as human beings. And this is the key. Whatever matter of this world you enter, stay higher, stay beyond, remain free.
Thank you. Thank you. The 8th day song that I touched that cover, that's actually beautiful. Thank you. That's her mantra. You made it under the time. Fantastic. The very excellent.
Okay, so my mantra is success is the only option. We use it a lot at work. And what does that mean for me? It means that it's not can we do it. If a task comes up or a project comes up, it's how we're going to do it. How are we going to accomplish this? What are the steps we're going to take to do it? And I have an example from the beginning years in the business where we had a customer. They own a lot of stadiums in California, and they buy a lot of under-counter refrigerators. We sell appliances. And we had a vendor drop ship refrigerators for them. They needed large quantities. And one day the vendor said, you know, we can no longer ship it for you. And the customer was very specific that this is what they wanted. So here we are. We have no option to ship it. If we have to ship it ourselves, it's not going to be profitable for us. What are our next steps? So we called around a bunch of vendors, and we found the customer another option. And we told them, listen, I know this is not what you want. Let me send it to you for free. If you're happy, we'll fulfill your next orders. And it actually worked out. So we could have said, we're not going to do this, and we're going to step away, and we're going to let a local dealer fulfill the order. That wasn't an option for us. Our option for us was to figure out how we're going to get this for the customer. And we also use another line that, you know, you all have ideas, I'm sure, business ideas, and you want to perfect it, or you want to think about it. How are you going to do it? How are you going to actually execute? And there really has to be a starting point. You don't know how long it's going to take until you start the GPS. So it could be an hour from now, but if you start it's an hour from when you start. So you have to actually get started. It's never going to be perfect. Follow your gut. Do what you think is right. Learn from other people's mistakes. Talk to people. You're not alone. There's other people that have done it, maybe not exactly in your business. Speak to people. You'll learn so much from them.
Thank you. Thank you. So to move forward, to network with people, and really, that's fantastic. Thank you. So, Mrs. Ganesh, so you shared before that, and this is how I put the question, you know, CHYE is a community organization, and there are business owners that bring in siblings, friends, close friends, and into the business. Your pride is, you know, your strength, we say your strength is your weakness is your strength. So your strength is it is a family business, and that can open and invite some challenges. What is the cardinal rule when working with family or close friends in your business?
Well, first of all, we love each other. So that's the first cardinal rule. And we all want the business to succeed. The second rule that I created, it's not a cardinal rule, it was my rule, is that whoever comes into the business gets equal pay. It doesn't matter if they're equal in working conditions, because everybody works on a different level, different time zones. So we don't look at time, or we have a sliding scale. When you come into the business, you get this. If you're married, you get this. If you're in 3 years, you get this. So that's something, and when everybody's equal, there's no jealousies. There's no competition. Everybody does the work that they do, and it's like an orchestra. You know, you have different kinds of...
That's what makes it the orchestra. That's what makes it the chorus. Very, very nice. Thank you. So I'm going to take that to the next question of, it was something you shared before about how the business started, but I always look at it that we all have defining moments in our career. They become a defining moment because it catalyzes, it somehow was a small thing, but it catalyzes a huge growth spurt. Can you share with us a defining moment that had an impact in leading the boom in your business? So that we are interested in hearing.
Absolutely. So after I started my business, I wanted to go into the pearl business. I'm going to speak quickly because I don't want to over. And somebody said to me, go to New York, there's a special supplier, he's going to help you, you'll buy from him. I came to him and he didn't want to sell to me. I wasn't big enough, it was I wasn't important enough for him. So we came out of his office and I said to my husband, Yitzhak, we're going to Japan. And he said, what? I said, yeah, pearls come from Japan. We'll go. If everybody buys it there, we'll just go there. And that's exactly what we did. It was a very interesting trip. I'm not going to go into details because it's a long detail, but that really opened up my business to a lot of very...
So you had the vision of pearls and where to
I
get
was
the pearls.
chutzpah. I had no
Thank
clue where I was going. I had no clue what I was buying.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I just say one more thing
You bet.
quickly? That when I came to Japan, women were like not second, but 15th class citizens. So when I walked into a supplier and I said to him, I don't know anything about pearls, but I want you to teach me because one day I'm going to be your biggest client. And he said, sure. And I'm telling you after that, and I did become his biggest client.
Nice. That actually is a very deep message in that was your vision and that's what you became, because that's part of mindset. What we envision ourselves, that's what we become. So you started it with the word chutzpah, and that segues excellent to our next question to Ms. Chutzpah. Mrs. Chutzpah, can we say that? So we spoke about on March 1st, 1994, everything changed in your life. And you became then the expert in terrorism. You did not stop. That chutzpah drove you. Signs on the bridge, $35 million raised to build the museum that every year sees the faces of over 1 million children. And that's just the tip of the boat. That's like the tip of my pinky nail. Just we see a woman that's just moving forward. With all that you've done, there's this constant, I wake up every day on a mission. What's the advice to the people sitting in the audience?
I was thinking about when I came here tonight, so like, what do you tell everybody? I was very focused because I knew where I was going and what I wanted to accomplish. But I could imagine people who might want to start and like, this sounds good and that sounds good. Everything sounds so exciting, but what am I supposed to do? They want to be somebody or something. I think you have to be very introspective and you have to find out who you are yourself. What do you really love the most? What do you really want to do with your life and with yourself? And you have to really hone into one particular thing. Again, you can't be everything to all people, and you have to stay focused. And I want to say on that front, it's like, I think I mentioned this even to you on the sideline, but you know, New York City, or the United States of America, has 316 million people living in this country. New York State alone has 20 million people. New York City has 7.5, nearly 8 million people. You know, at the beginning, people would say to me, so, your name is this. I've got to tell you people sitting in this room that when I used to need to speak to the governor, I'll be ready up to my minutes. I'll say, I'm just finished my sentence. I used to stand, my dear friends, online for hours before they knew who Devorah Halberstam was. Now I can pick up the phone and they take my calls. But it took a very, very, very tedious, long time, trust me, before it happened. So it's all about work and being committed and hard work. It doesn't just happen.
Thank you. That was actually a resounding message that I did get in the message, the poll with you. And I'll give a public. We had a very good conversation that I told the elder who works with me, Karen, her mom sitting in the audience. A conversation with the Bari was, she didn't like the analogy, but I'm going to say it. It was like chemo treatment for all burning any kind of doubts in anybody. If you believe in what you stand for and in your vision of where you go, and you stay steadfast with it, you're going to make it. It's going to be your truth. You're going to emanate it, and you have to do your best. It's the hard work, and then God will make these small things happen. Move yourself forward, connect to what your calling is, and move yourself forward. So thank you for that. So my next question, I started with, I do coaching, and I come into teams to build teams, but sometimes we come in and handle conflict management. So there was something that I learned. I took it out of the script because I was like, why don't you focus on positive? But I'm going to say it this way because it will get to the point. There was something that I learned from one of my Italian clients when he tells me, I learned in corporate, whenever you're looking at a team, you always switch things from the head. You always have to look at leadership. If there's a conflict in the team, you have to find out what's going on at the leadership level. So with this, I bring the question to leadership needs to be a part of the culture of your organization. And I asked to the very outward first, how do you define the culture that's implemented into your business at AJ Madison to in a short time build at this level to the success where it has become? What message do you have to the audience here?
Okay, so I would say that leadership needs to be very, very clear about what they're expecting and line it out. I mean, you can't expect an employee to come back and to ask them to create a strategy for your business or for some project that you want to drive forward. And I looking back, every time we weren't able to execute a project or we got stuck or there was some conflict, it was always because we weren't clear in lining it out, outlining it for the team, or communicating what we wanted. So I would say that employees are not business owners and they don't see the full picture. You're the only one that sees the full picture when you're an owner or you're running a business. And you have to work with the employees to grow them and give over your vision and let them have small wins. I have a line that I use. I don't like when we give employees a silver platter because then we're giving them the platter and then when they fail, we're pulling it back. So we want them to have small successes. Let them have wins. They have another win, then you let the reins go a little bit more. And with every success that they have, we release a little bit more responsibility.
Thank you. Thank you. So the very Hauptstadt, I actually segued that to saying, well, you're speaking about a new culture that you created. You changed the way the Justice Department was viewing and reporting Ari's murder. You created what you created. In other words, you consistently, you touched on it before about connecting to your truth and creating your culture, but if you can talk a little bit more to that in speaking about leadership from the top.
I don't know if you mean specifically about that particular thing that you're referring to in terms of me, so I will take that perspective from the terrorism angle. So when I began with this, Ari's case was treated as a random act of violence. Now, terrorism back in 1994 was not on anybody's radar screen. Nobody was talking about it. Nobody was thinking it. In comes this woman, this mother of a dead child, and she starts talking about it. I sat through a room of only men and only men all the time, in the Justice Department, in the DA's office, in the federal government, in the state government, in the local government. And it was again, and we go, what does she want? Does she want money? Does she want to sue us? They couldn't believe that actually at the end of the day, that I wanted the truth. Because I wanted to document it, and every single Friday, this same mother was also the Jewish mother. Every single Friday night, till this very day, when I bench left, part of my prayers are Avinu Malkeinu. And I can come Avinu Malkeinu, I say, and I used to beg Hashem that the world should know why my son was murdered. And I want to tell you something, it may seem like nothing to you, or something very simple. But I want you to know that it is the only case in the history of the United States of America, the only that has ever been changed by the Justice Department. So it isn't a small thing. And after 9/11, the governor called me the prophetess, and I guess my name is Deborah Hanavia, and he did when I walked in the room. He goes, how did we should have, and Mayor Giuliani has said it before, large audiences, if you would have listened to her before 9/11, it may have not have happened. So, I was the hysterical mother at the beginning, but I was focused and I knew exactly where I was going. And today, they come to me and they reach out to me. Government leaders, governments from countries around the world. I have stories that I can tell you from here to Timbuktu, make your hair stand on your head. And very, very interesting. But I never did give up, and I still don't. And really, the leadership part that I can tell you tonight is when you want to do something, just believe in yourself. And I promise you, you will be able to accomplish it.
Thank you. So, Mrs. Barnacle, we're going to start with you. What makes you most proud?
It's a great segue. So I was talking about being a mother. So I'm so proud to be a wife and a mother. And I think when people introduce me in the office, they say, she's the one with 6 children. And people look at me like I have 2 heads at least. And what makes me proud is the fact that I can be in this corporate environment, be this person with six children, 2 heads, and they see me as successful, as somebody who can juggle and have this outside interest, this large family, and this commitment to something that's beyond the corporate doctrine.
Thank you. That's meaningful for all of us. Mrs. English, what makes you most proud?
My children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, that's my biggest pride and joy. We spend every Shabbos together. Rabbi Werdy was in our country where we go every Shabbos. A small Shabbos is 35 people and a big Shabbos is 90 people. So that's what we pray for, that's what we want, and that's what they just every minute for that.
Very awesome.
I'm proud, I would say, and thankful that I got this opportunity to grow with the company, start at the very beginning and through it, get married, have a family, and still be able to juggle everything all at the same time. It's very, very challenging. Have to be super organized, but I'm able to have a full work. I come home, I'm dedicated when I'm at home, and continue to do this every day and not get burnt out. So I'm proud of it.
That's why women need their own panel, right? Because that's the stuff that we do that, how can we describe? Very hard time.
I echo what everybody else said. Of course, my children and my grandchildren come before anything else in this world, and my husband as well. But I will say that I definitely am very proud, and every single day I feel my responsibilities. I never say no to anything that comes my way, because the one thing I've learned is you don't wait until tomorrow, you might miss the boat. So we've got to take an opportunity when it comes to us, and I use every single one of them. I'm proud of the museum. That is a legacy for my son that I've given to our community and to the world. I'm proud of the stuff that I do for the Jewish community all over the world, for Jews that I save, that I stand up for the Jewish people every single day of my life. I will fight for every Jew in this world. I will always be on their side.
So there are 2 things, and now we're going to talk about customer service and having, in the business of providing customer service, there's 2 things you constantly hear. Number 1, the number 1 customer rule is that the customer is always right. And number 2, that every customer is worth $1 million. What policies do you have in dealing with difficult customers? Actually, we'll start with you. If you can share.
Okay, so I think that policies need to be very, very clear for both the customers and the employees. I think that if you have a clear policy, no matter what it really is, it can be communicated and an employee can stand firm in stating the policy. I also think that it's important to gauge yourself around other competitors in your marketplace or in your channel of business. And if somebody on their scale of customer service is 1 to 10 and they're doing 1, you don't have to be a 10. You just have to be a little bit better than them. So raise the standard a little bit, but you don't have to take it all the way to the other end.
Thank you. That's very
2 is
practical.
good.
That's very, very practical. Mrs. Gnavish, if you could share your customer
Sure.
policy.
Our customer policy is that what you said, the customer is always right. But there are times when you need to put your foot down and say, sorry, a customer comes in and he brought me 15 different kinds of stones and he wants to make a ring and he makes me a design and we remade the design to look exactly like he wants it, but professionally. I created the ring, it was gorgeous. He came back and he said, oh, that stone is in the wrong place. So I said, look, sir, I'll be very happy to take apart the stones, you can have them back and go to somewhere that'll make it better for you. And sometimes you just have to be like that, because you never win with a customer like that, so.
When it's a lose-lose, you
Just
I'll
take
take
your
it.
losses and smile.
I would add that it's important to just close an open issue quickly, because the longer it drags on, the harder it will be to resolve it. So cut your losses and move on.
Excellent. So now we're going to ask I think a more difficult question where, decision-making, stuff that I teach about, decision-making is an important part of every day. Deciding what to focus on and then keep the focus channeled can be sometimes hard. Sometimes a decision is made prematurely, or in retrospect you say, oh, why did I even do that, and you regret it. What advice can you share in strategic decision-making? Ms. Wernicker, we're going to start with you.
Firstly, I think do your homework, gather the facts, and then be confident. As Deborah said, if you believe in yourself, you'll succeed. So firstly, have your groundwork, lay the groundwork, do your homework, and then we have no time for regrets. Be confident in your decision and move on and work through your decisions. I don't think we should spend a lot of time in our life. We're all very busy in regretting, in wishing, in move forward with confidence, and ultimately you'll be successful.
Thank you. Very well done.
I'm going to say something very strange. This is not really strategic, but it comes from the Rebbe. I believe in keeping things b'chashayim, and I have my own secret ways of doing things that I never, ever, ever tell anybody. So when I have something that I'm doing that's of extreme importance, I always have a plan. And I have plan 1 and plan 2.
Your backup plan.
And yeah, and it usually works. And I think sometimes I go with my gut feeling. And I don't want to ask anybody what to do. I know it's because I know what I need to get done. So I trust myself to do it.
So trusting the gut and having a backup plan and making decisions. Wow. Okay, so now there's going to be a question that's really going to hopefully, really meet each of you. We're going to ask the people on the panel. You have a vision, you have a passion, and then sometimes, Hashem didn't create life to be linear. That we go from here to here to here, and sometimes it's a dip. So, some of you in the room here might be at that place. You're just starting, beginning. It's just tough to meet the bills. What advice can you give in getting ahead when times are tough? So, Mrs. Ganeda should ask you that first.
When things are tough, you need to focus on the positive things. Everybody has negative things in their life. And if you let the negative things come in your way, then that's a double whammy. So you just have to figure out what are the good things, focus on the good things, see what works, focus on those things. And Devishta somehow always manages to let you figure out, even when you think it's really, really, really terrible, and then you see that, you know what, Hashem wanted it specifically, and then it comes out to the good. So just have a lot of B'tachon and Devishta that, it's going to be good.
Thank you. So, Deborah, I'm gonna ask this question to you, and I'm gonna ask it in a place of, here a lot of the conversation is focused around businesses, and when the business takes a dip, really you differentiate yourself in the part of you that spends a lot of time in the nonprofit space. And many of you might be representing a nonprofit program. How do you differentiate between the nonprofit space and the corporate space? And then what happens when a nonprofit takes a dip?
Okay. Well, the nonprofit world is extremely different than the business world, extremely. First of all, it is not a beneficiary, which means people don't personally benefit from it. It is really, at the end of the day, it's for the club. A nonprofit is supposed to work for the purpose of serving the public. And there have been, and trust me when I tell you this, in the 15 years, it's almost 16 or 17 years, that I've been working with the museum, there have been many ups and many downs. And I go to sleep at night sometimes where I have walked and paced the floors many, many times. So I don't want anyone in this room to think you just say Shema Yisrael and it's all good and fine. At the end of the day, we go through many hardships, and there are many difficult decisions. Sometimes we have to sit back and just hold our breath. I do live by something my mother did teach me a long time ago. Nothing stays the same. So if you hold your breath long enough, and don't forget that I work a lot with government agencies. There are different administrations. They keep moving. You build relationships with people, and it is all about relationships, all of it. And I have many, many, many relationships. It's not just you have acquaintances. People, I love people, and they feel it. And that is how I build my friendships up with people. And this is how the business builds. So even in tough times, there are people who will stand with you and hold your hand. Not always, they can't always help you, but people do give you advice. People will be there through thick and thin. And you always will have those handful of people that will be there with you. But as I said, the private sector is a completely different, and the public sector is a completely different animal. That's it. I mean, and a lot of people in our community work, because if you work for a Chabad house, or you work for a shul, or you work for any of those things, you're all dealing with the same kinds of things. Not necessarily government agency, but raising money through fundraising events like tonight or whatever, things like that. So it's, if there's no money around, you can't go to people and ask them for money. But there's another thing to be learned here, that when I go to people, and I promise you this, I have said this to people who are people that sit that are above my pay grade and below my pay grade. And I have said to them time and time again, nobody owes anybody anything. Nobody. If God granted somebody more money and they're able to give money, if somebody gives me $18, I graciously accept it without thinking twice. Anybody that will say to somebody else, I will not accept an $18 donation, I wouldn't give them another dollar after that. People that give you don't have to. Don't have to. I am grateful to everybody and by the way, that goes for even the non-Jews who have helped me. I have had so much help over the years through people that are non-Jews. It's like unbelievable. There are good people all over this world, and we need to care about them. I know people. I know about their families. I know about their children. I will tell one story here tonight. I want you to close the camera, because this is so significant, this story. It's a story that almost...
The icker, really the thing is, everybody in the audience, think to yourself, how does that really apply to me? How can that show up in my life? Because in all honesty, it really can show up in all of your lives. So we're at the final stretch of tonight, and Mrs. Gnabers, I'm going to start with you, and thank you so much for being at this panel, coming in especially for it. Our whole topic tonight is about getting ahead, right? Getting ahead. No matter what's going on, you all have the kayak to get ahead. You came here tonight to learn, to be inspired. So my thing is, okay, so I want you to all walk away with the toolbox. What ingredients can you share to the things that you kept to, the values that you base your entire growth on, that have really led you to your success, that inside resilience that you clearly have? What can we share with the audience?
Well, first of all, I'm very passionate about what I do. I love what I do. Like
Well, you all love jewelry.
I love
Your diamonds, they're just beautiful.
I love people. I can speak to a doorknob if I have to. I make people happy. They come into my showroom, and that's what I do. I make people happy. I give a lot of charity. I myself have 3 Chabad houses. I have 2 grandchildren that run Chabad houses, and I have a daughter who runs a Chabad house. And I know what collecting money is. We support our grandchildren and our children as if they would be working in my business. Why should they have to suffer because they're in a different kind of business? So they get the same salary. They're equal to whatever we do. And I believe it 1,000,000% that whatever I do, the Eibishter repays me 1,000,000 times over. And so that's it. I was honored by Israel Bonds. I was honored by Israel Cancer Research. Because people come into the showroom, they want prizes, they want things, gifts. I give to everybody, hospitals, goyim, just like you. I'm in a social kind of a, people think of me as God because I give them a $100 thing. They think, oh my God, she's so generous. So it's a big Kiddush Hashem because they look at religious women, they think we have horns, but I don't have horns. And so I think that's what I do.
Thank you. Mrs. Warnock, I'm going to go next to you. You know, we all know that schooling to become a lawyer is no easy bit. What was your drive that led to finishing the schooling, becoming a lawyer, raising the home? We know about your husband's success, so that power behind your, you know, as an Isha's power behind your husband. So if you can share some tools that have really been your drive to where you are.
I think as we heard out on this panel, is being passionate about what you do is crucial. So we should all find something that we really want to do. I wanted to be a lawyer from a really young age. Apparently I was a little argumentative as a child, and my parents thought I'd be great as a lawyer, so maybe they kind of put the idea in my head. I love problem solving. I think law school and understanding law gives you those tools to solve problems, to think laterally, and determination. I left South Africa. I did not want to grow up. I did not want to practice law in an apartheid system. I think, again, just being determined about reaching our goal means that we want to like what we need to like what we do. We want to be passionate about what we want to do, and I think as was said as well is there's no easy road. It's not like we can sit back and just hope that things are going to be smooth sailing. And yes, I want to do X and I want to do Y, but behind the wants is a lot of hard work, a lot of preparation, and the recommendation would be is plan backwards. If you have your goal, work backwards in terms of what's going to take to get to that goal. So,
Thank you. Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, begin with the end in mind, and you'll see where you want to be going. So there's a great book I'm reading now about executive coaching with backbone and heart. And as an executive coach, as much as we're coaching the executives that we're working with, or the individuals that we're working with, but as a coach, you've got to have your backbone and heart. And I'm going to turn to Barry Oxford and ask, so what are the ingredients to your backbone that, you know, you started young and you led yourself to you know, where you're going with the company?
No, you're lucky at me. Okay. So I'm very integrated into the business. I'm very involved. I try to take myself out of the picture and just focus on what's important in the business and what needs to get done. I'm firm. I'm tough, but I'm firm. People consider me fair because I'm willing to hear them out when they have an opinion, and I'm willing to be convinced. So that's very important to a lot of our employees. And I also think that the most important ingredient and having a backbone is having a plan and then sticking to the plan. So we came into this year and we decided that we're going to focus on 3 things. And every time an idea comes up, I say, is it part of the plan? Does it fit into our 3 buckets? If it doesn't, we're not doing it. Come back in 2017. If it does, let's discuss it. Let's go forward.
That's part of the real focus. That's part of the real focus. So, Barry Halberstam, this question is going to go to you. That, you know, we didn't know how big the audience tonight is going to be, but clearly you're standing in front of the Crown Heights Young Entrepreneurs. That's the name of the organization, and that's who Rabbi Wardy addresses his crowd to. There's centennials, there's millennials, and the young Crown Heights entrepreneurs today. Just as I'm saying it, and just being learning, there's so much learning today about the different centennials, millennials. My mom is a teacher in the school, so she's gonna by default learn about the millennials, because you gotta learn about how their brains are wired in order to be successful in that environment. I wanna ask you, if everyone walked out of the room today, no matter what age you're at, no matter where you're at, and we're consistently growing, there's so much science proving, the neuroscience, that we're rewiring our whole life. That's why after a stroke you can get some functionality back, because you're consistently rewiring, you're consistently improving. If everybody walked out of the room today with one thing as a, down pat, what would that be? Very helpful. I'm going to hand the mic to you.
I still have to say this last story, because this is really the crux of all of it. Everybody loves stories. So, when I got my first contract for the Jewish Children's Museum, Mayor Giuliani gave it to me. And we were sitting in Gracie Mansion when I came to visit him. And he had a party in his backyard then for the firemen's wives. He used to make one, nobody knew this about him. Actually, he was a very kind person. And he used to make a party each year for the widows of the people who lost their husbands in fires and the children. And we're at the meeting, and I'm talking to him about the museum, that I want to go to the museum. Now remember, he only knew me as Ari's mother. And here I am, it didn't even take a year. I'm at his store saying I need money. And he's asking me how much money, and we're making a deal. And he said, but Devorah, the wives and the kids are waiting for me. Devorah, the wives and the kids are waiting for me. He wanted to get to them. I will never forget how he stood there, and his heart wanted to go out to them. At the end of the day, he gave me then a contract for $7.5 million. Why is that so significant? Because 9/11 came immediately after that. If you were not registered, your contract wasn't registered with the city, it doesn't matter if you were promised $1, you weren't getting your money. So I have to tell you what I did. 9/11 happened. I had a dinner that was planned for 9/12/2001. That was supposed to be in the Pierre Hotel in the city of New York. Mary Gianni was my guest of honor. Louis Freeh was getting the Ari Halberstam, where he was the head of the FBI. He was going to be in the Pierre Hotel, which is 63 Fifth Avenue. And we never had the dinner because 9/11 happened, so everything was canceled. And I'm thinking, this museum will never get built. So, of course, then we had to turn over. We had a new mayor. Everybody's looking for a new election. There went Bloomberg, and he's coming in. So I get invited. Now, this is December 31st, 2001. And January 1st, Mayor Bloomberg is going to be the new mayor. So what Devorah Halberstam did, and this was like a solo act, and I want this to be the last thought that you have it tonight. What I did was as follows. I took a taxi from one part of the city to the other. I went and took the contract, I got it signed in one place. I brought it over to the controller of the city of New York, who was Alan Hevesy then. And they were moving the furniture all over City Hall out of the rooms. Because that's it, there's a new mayor tomorrow. And I said, controller, you have to sign my contract now. I need a number. I got the contract registered with the number. If I wouldn't have the number, I could stand on my head till this very day. And I'm standing when I say it. It's like you said, you're standing before this audience, so I'm standing before this audience. And the reason why it's so significant is because the next day, I sat at Mayor Bloomberg's inauguration. And outside the steps of City Hall, it was outside in the street. If you all remember, they gave us hand warmers because he was very rich, everybody got hand, and blankets we were covered with. And the announcements the mayor made was, to all the cultural organizations, if your contracts weren't registered, you're not getting the money. And we got the money, which was, it's a very good deal. So all I can tell you is if I didn't do it, so guess what? It's all in your hands. Faith in yourself, faith in God, faith in what you believe in, and you can accomplish the world. Truly, truly.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'll give you the power, channel, and challenge the panel and ask them the questions. So ask any questions. We say I always ask for, as part of the ground rules, that there's no judgment in the room. There's no question that's stupid or really she thinks this way. There's no judgment to any questions that are asked. You are here empowered tonight with all of the cheering from the panel. And thank you very, very much. Thank you really all. Thank you for working with the time and the high marks and a lot of. I drove them crazy before tonight, so thank you very, very much. Go ahead and challenge them with questions. Great, get it going.
Hi, Louise. Thank you. I learned a lot tonight. I'm just curious about how you deal with men in the workplace. Like, I'm fairly young and haven't had that much work experience, and I've already experienced like men getting the upper hand just because they're men, or like being intimidated to like stand my ground when I'm negotiating with men. So I would love tips.
Thank you. So who wants to take that first?
I can tell,
Go ahead.
I don't understand because I never had that problem. I think if you're very strong in what you believe and what you're doing, I wish you the courage to stand up and be yourself.
So thank you. So one aspect of be who you are and have that courage. How about the New Yorkers in the room? Working in a New York organization where, we're exposed to some other stuff.
So I'll tell you something that I learned in my first year in the business, and the owner of the company said to me, knowledge is power, and you're right, you're young, and people, you don't have a lot of work experience. Learn as much as you can. Study after hours. Learn about the internet business because we run an internet business, and the more you know, people will automatically respect.
Thank you. I actually like that because, you see, on one hand, it's exactly what Mrs. Ganesh says, feeling comfortable in your own skin, in your own who you are, and then here with knowledge of power. Anything more? But you're around, very male-dominated.
Very much so. And it is a man's world. But when I walk into the room, I make sure that they know I'm there. So I'm just letting you know that it's really about yourself. And you just make sure that, again, that you just sit in the back of the room, in the front of the room. They don't sit in the middle of the room. You know what I mean? But it's not easy. That is true. I mean, she's saying something that's a very real issue, without a doubt. And, so it's a constant struggle, and it's not just from people, it's everywhere. It's the workplace.
Thank you. Do you want to add anything to that, Ms. Marshall?
I think what everybody said is true and meaningful. I think as women, and we kind of see this in the political arena now, where you have a woman who's running for president, I think we have to sort of be careful not to become shrill. So it's sort of a balance of using our feminine skills, our femininity, to get us further than perhaps trying to be a man. And I think we as women have come a long way in terms of we don't have to be a man, we just have to be who we are and use our skills and our smarts to do things in a way that may not be necessarily seen as too aggressive, but yet still seen as you say, knowledgeable and smart, and having that ammunition will stand against it.
Thank you. That was a great question to open it. Next question. There you go.
In your introduction, you mentioned that difficult thing in order to be successful, you have to have money. I was waiting to hear, could someone who doesn't have financial backing get into that business world? Now, Mrs. Ganesh was very inspiring, but I think based on the way you're talking, you were able to give someone 25.
Excellent question. Excellent. The question is how? How from the bottom up, if you will.
We borrowed money from the bank because my husband was able to borrow money. We had no money. I mean, we were not poor, but I had 6 children, and we had to pay tuition, and we didn't have our own house. We did not have money, as so-called money. We borrowed the money to give it to him. So when he sent me back the jewelry, I had to go out on the road and sell it and make back some of that money that we lost. I never made fully back all the money that we lost with this friend, but you know what? managed to put me into a situation which I never thought I was able to be in. I never thought I could design, I never thought I could sell, I never thought that I would enjoy it. I was a kindergarten teacher before that. So that was a really big step for me. But of course it helps if you have money, but I don't think you need money. You need, I think you need people around you to help you. I know that we help a lot of people who have no money with ideas, with things.
Are you talking about putting together like an advisory committee that you network with advisors and how to?
People just come over to us and say, look, I have an idea. You know, what could you do to help me? And sometimes with money and sometimes with advice.
When you, after you sold the jewelry that you got back, you started big, you started heavy?
No, you don't start big. There's no such thing as big. You start small. You buy a little bit, you make your profit, you sell it. You have a little bit left over, you buy some more. And as you get into business, you start to work with a bank, and then the bank, you know, sees that you're honest and you're doing the right things in business. They give you a line of credit. Once you have a line of credit, then you can buy more things, and then you can sell more things. So it's little steps, and it took me 40 years. I was a young woman. I was 35 years old when this happened. I am 73 years old today, so it was a long time ago. But, you know, with a lot of help from my husband and then later from my children. My husband had a business that none of the kids would have been able to go into. And because of what happened with this business, all my children were able to. They opened up an internet company called Ice.com, which made $100 million 1 year. So it was a huge success. They sold that company, and now they're into all kinds of other things. So once you start and you have it, you know, you can do a million things afterward. But it's small.
Yes. You can be your last question, because I'm going to wrap that down. Definitely go with it.
When you started business and you started selling things, how do you depreciate? Like, what can you spend on, you know, everyday things from the house, and what can you go back into business?
Well, lucky for me, I had a husband who was supplying the money for the house. So whatever I made was really extra.
I mean, I think you're always reinvesting in the business. You know, until you make enough money to live a little larger, or you're going to constantly reinvest in the business. Take what you need to live, but live a basic life, and then move up from there.
Thank you. Is that it? Thank you very, very, really very much. Everybody, thank you so much for this opportunity. This idea was fantastic. It's great insight from when you're growing up to hear these things, and then it's, you know, serve as a guide moving forward. Thank